So, well, thank you for being here. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? And, well, first of all, how did you hear about the project? Or, and yeah, just about yourself and your background.
So I received an email and I responded to the email. As an elected official, it was my duty to participate and tell the story because I do represent the voices of many in the community, and I felt that some voices have to be more amplified because you have that level of responsibility to those families and those folks that are under-marginalized, underrepresented, underserved.
And like I said, I'm Francisco. I was born here in Ventura County, and I heard about this through my husband, Pedro.
How long have you lived in the county?
So I'll start with this question because home is where the heart is, obviously, and I fell in love with somebody who's a native to Ventura County, and I moved here to follow my heart. And 18 years later, happily married, and it's been quite a journey. When I fell in love with Francisco, he introduced me to the county through his family, through the community, and I just kind of fell in love with Ventura County as a whole.
How did you both meet?
We met through nonprofit work. In 1999, Pedro was the president of this organization called Latin Pride, and I was there interviewing for a position. So that's how we met.
So when I'm originally from Spain. I'm half Basque and half Spanish, and I'm new to the county. I've only been here for 5 months, and I have moved a lot. I studied in Germany and then in the UK, and then I moved in 2003 to Long Beach, where I worked in different museums. So when I think, if someone asks me what does home mean to me, I always say that it's not a physical place, and that I carry home within me, and that while my family is far away, and I feel privileged because they gave me a lot, I'm not as in touch with them, and so the way I find home is through people in the community, and I try to help them through my work, and then that in a way gives me purpose. So I wanted to ask you if you could talk to me about what home means to you, and how has that, if that has evolved through time as well.
You want to answer first?
Well, for me, home is always, you're always on the go, you're working. My mother, has been working since she was 15, and she would leave me in my grandma's house while she went to go work, then pick me up at 7 o'clock at night, and it was a sense also, when we would have her family picnics or something, be with her coworkers, but she spends 12 hours a day with them. That was her family, and her clients. Sometimes we'll go to their house and stuff. So I believe home is your surrounding, not only your immediate family, but the people you work with, your neighbors, your friends. That's what you make of a home.
You have mentioned it before, but what?
So I think that it's important when you find home, you're also finding yourself in that journey. So for me, as an immigrant from Mexico, now born in the United States, you have to know where you come from. So understanding your culture, your roots, your history, your interconnection with others that have the same struggle and the same experience as an immigrant, I think we bind ourselves through that struggle. It's kind of like it's a united, it's what binds us together as people, is understanding where each of us come from. And so being Mexicano, you find home through those exchanges. And growing up in a big city like LA, I didn't discover Ventura County until I met Francisco. And that's when our journey started in our relationship. And we've been fortunate enough to live in 3 parts of their county and experience different neighborhoods, different people, diversity. And so we loved living in Camarillo, but we lived in Oxnard, and now we live in Santa Paula. And this county has so much to offer, and I think the home is really finding those individuals that have shared values and shared experiences. And deep rooted in those experiences is understanding our struggle in our journey through life, because we all don't start at the same place.
What do you think when your parents moved to the U.S.? What do you feel were the expectations that that society had on them?
So I think it was really difficult for my mom coming to the United States, because she was a single parent, 2 kids, and she fled a bad relationship in Mexico. And so because my uncle started to develop roots here in the United States, he told her, well, come out here with me. And that's kind of like opened the pathway into the United States. And, growing up as a kid, I grew up in a neighborhood where I was a minority. And that was, everyone didn't look like me. And so I immediately experienced the impact of people coming from different walks of life, growing up in LA, where I grew up. And, I think you learn to value and appreciate people. And again, what binds each other, all of us, is really the struggle. And especially because I grew up in a community where there were a lot of immigrants from different countries, even from Russia. My best friends were Russian, Armenian, we had Asian. I mean, it was pretty much, at that point, was the melting pot, right? Everyone was coming here to kind of mesh with each other. But it also created challenges growing up, because I was a minority. So I had to face discrimination early on and dealing with bullying issues. And I think I look back at those experiences now, and I see that that's kind of made me a better person. Those struggles and those experiences of adversity have really made me have tougher skin, be able to be resilient. And I'm grateful for those experiences growing up in a community where not everybody looked like me.
What do you feel your view of home was back then?
Safety. It was in a world where you were somewhere foreign, in a sense. I think early on it was about feeling safe and secure, and that was receiving love from your family members, making sure that you followed what they told you to do, so that you didn't fall into any pitfalls. So they were always watching me, in a sense, because I was very talkative and I was very outgoing, and maybe I was a bit naive back then, but I think those feeling of safety really came to play early on in trying to find home, feeling safe, feeling loved, feeling the taste of the food that's made by your mother and your grandparents. I think for us as Mexicanos, we are brought together through those shared experiences and our love for food and flavor.
That's true.
It's interesting that you're bringing food into the mix, because in a way, it is true that many people, through food, you you can carry culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what about you? What was on your earlier years? What was home to you?
My earlier years, like I mentioned, was being at my grandma's house, watching her cook, showing me the different recipes. Because my grandfather in particular was a bracero. So when he came here first with his two older children, and then he brought over my grandma and the rest of her 7 children, because there's 9 siblings. So my parents met here, and my father's side was also through the same thing, through the bracero, came over here. So they met in junior high. And of course, I was born here in Oxnard.
What values do you feel your parents gave you at that time? What do you feel your parents considered home?
They consider home where they felt comfortable, where they can speak their language, where they can be themselves, and they could talk to other individuals that also share those same customs and that same sense that they're welcome in the community.
From those early years then, well, how did you end up doing the work that you do?
Through my mom. I would see her go to work every day. She worked she first worked in the strawberry fields, but then when she went to college, she got a job at a bank, and I would just see her, and that's something as a little kid I said, that's what I want to do. I want to work at a bank. And that's what I do now.
For many years.
For many years, since 1994, I've been in banking.
And what made you want to work, work for the community or with the community? Or serve?
I started a career in nonprofit work. And that entry into nonprofit was based on what I was seeing was happening to the world around me. So as someone who is gay, that grew up in an era where it wasn't accepted, we had policies in place that were impacting people like me. And as growing up, I wanted to go into the military. I did military, paramilitary programs from 7th grade all the way to senior. And a year before I graduated, Don't Ask, Don't Tell came out as a policy that was affecting people like me. And I had to really look in the mirror and say, do I want to go and be quiet about who I am, or do I want to change the world in other ways? And I decided that I had to be authentic and be my authentic self, be true to myself, and military service was not that option because of those policies. That was the beginning of a journey of caring about causes, thinking about there's a larger purpose in life, to be of service. And like I mentioned earlier, not all of us come from the same place. We have different starting places. And so I felt a need through my experiences in nonprofit to be of service, especially for people who couldn't speak for themselves. And sure enough, later on actually a year ago, I was asked about running for office. And I maybe had a little seed planted a long time ago, but, I felt it was time to, what do I have to lose? Let me put myself out there. And I had a conversation with my husband and my family because it was going to be a joint effort. We all had to be in it.
Together.
And sure enough, it happened. And I feel a sense of duty to serve, especially in communities that have been underserved. In particular, the power base in our county hasn't always looked as diverse as its people. And so as communities change, it's important that diversity is in all parts of our society, so we can be inclusive to everybody. And so that's really what I've cared about. But it started early on when the seeds were planted through service activities, even from grade school.
Deciding to be, your true self. When I hear you say that, was it easy for you to make that decision?
No, it was difficult because, again, I was looking at the world around me, and I grew up in an age of AIDS, where being gay was synonymous with you're going to die of AIDS. And so in grade school, and I wasn't out, I didn't come out till probably like 21 years old to my family and really out completely. So it was a struggle for me to make that decision, but I knew that you can't hide who you are. And being authentic means that you also have to be a role model to other people that haven't found themselves. Because we didn't have that many positive role models that looked like us, that were maybe gay, Latino. I mean, these things were not, even in Latino culture, it was not something that was accepted. And so it was a hard journey. However, you kept fighting against all the things and the pressures that one gets from oppression, from living in an oppressive society that keeps telling you that your lifestyle is, or your life is not valuable, that you shouldn't have the same rights, that you're an abomination, or that you're all these things were things you grew up with, and those things at some point take a toll. And that's why it took a while for me to really find my footing, find myself. But I always had the love of family. And I think I'm blessed, I'm grateful for that, because I know a lot of people who did not. And I know a lot of people who didn't make it, who got into destructive behaviors that took their lives, because they kept getting these messages that said, you shouldn't exist.
How did that affect your concept of home? Did you had the support of your family, which is something that not everybody has, but do you see, did the concept of home be affected in any way by that big change and decision that you made?
It was, yes, it was, because even though I came out at 21 to my mom over dinner, right? And she told me, I know. I've been carrying all this weight on me, right? But she told me, it's about you accepting yourself. I love you, I will love you unconditionally. But this is about you, your acceptance, not mine. You're my son, I love you. Single mom, it was tough. I saw my uncle die of AIDS. We took care of him during his passing. And so there's things that happen within your life that kind of shift everything, your whole universe, right? And I say that because, when you're trying to find yourself and you go out and find community of people that look like you, right? So finding that community meant also, I felt I had to also leave my family a little behind, and not, I felt like I had to have like two lives, like my gay life and my real life at home. And it wasn't until the journey took me to reconcile those two into one. And I think love was that connection. And I say that because in our relationships, we went through hell we knew we loved each other, but we didn't understand. We had so much of the residue of all the negative stuff that we thought, and I thought, I wasn't worth being loved or loving. And so when we were in our initial relationship, we didn't immediately forge it, right? We had to go through our trials and tribulation. And that included leaving each other. So we dated for a little bit, and then I followed a career path, and I left to DC. And I left for 3 years, And that separation of realization, and also led to a realization that why can't I can love, why can't I? Even though the government's told you, your relationship doesn't exist, right? Even people say that no, you can't have those relationships, right? Those are things we had to fight for, right? And so that meant a lot more when you have to fight for your love. And when we decided to marry, the deal was you either move here or I move there. And I knew that taking Francisco away, it would be his choice, obviously, but having him move somewhere away from his entire family, where he's really has a cultural connection and love, and his home is his family, I couldn't do that to his spirit.
And it was an easy decision from your part?
To come.
Was it an easy decision that he made, or was it also a lot of...
I think it wasn't a lot of convincing. He knew that, by him coming back, he was going to be with his brother and his mom, and I was here. This is, Ventura County is my home. I've always lived here. I've never lived anywhere abroad or anything, and like you said, my spirit is here in California.
His grandmother raised them, and their connection is their bond is really strong. And his family is here. His brothers are having their first child. Like, you're not going to be able to be there for those things because you are on the other side of the country. Where I'm coming from a single parent, I'm just my mom and my brother. It's very different than having your entire family and support system here, whereas the rest of my extended family is in Mexico. So that was probably the best decision I made. It wasn't a difficult one because we fought for our love. Do you know what I mean? And fighting for that love, you get to a point where, okay, where we see eye to eye, now this is how it's going to be. And sure enough, moving to Ventura County, growing up in a big city, it's very different than coming to a community like Ventura County in 2005.
And I just remember him saying that. I just remember Hillary's words, it takes a village to raise a family. And it really was a village, It was my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, all raising, us when we were younger. So that's what I recall right now.
This is, I think it's very meaningful that you were able to acknowledge that your experience was different, and that you recognized so easily and good, that I know we're talking about love. Mm-hmm. Perhaps I'm just taking it too personally from my own side, but yeah, I would just want to acknowledge that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now you both, all the things that you've lived together and all the support that you have been offering to each other, and being in the place that you are now, where you are both more established and have, that family circle that is supporting you. What is home now?
Well, home is 18 years of loving each other and going through experiences, making friends, eating great food, raising a child. Like, that's something that we ended up doing accidentally, because I, deep inside, I wanted to fulfill something that was missing inside of me, which was not having a father growing up. And so it turns out that I wanted to experience a little bit of what that would look like. And more about what I can do to help another child that maybe didn't grow up with a father. And so I became a mentor and brought a 13-year-old child, in a sense, to our home because, he was always with us. We gave him all these experiences. he's 25, 26 now.
He just moved out with us last year.
2 years ago, yeah.
2 years now, yes.
I think we've done a good job. He's serving the community as a police officer in LAPD. He wasn't ashamed of us being with them and doing things with them. And, that fulfilled in me that void. I became that missing piece. I found it by giving it out to somebody who needed it. And, he was the first to graduate from high school. He went to college. He's very responsible. Like, I remember I made sure he experienced, if he wanted to go into law enforcement, be an explorer, go volunteer, do things, learn more about it before you make a decision to go down that path. And that was a good thing for him because he needed that structure. And, we were just hanging out with him at Universal Studios on Monday, him and his girlfriend. And, I remember when he was, now he's, and that was part of those 18 years of experience that we had, meeting his family, our family. We've had death in our family, so we've been through it together, and it's gotten us closer. Because sometimes the struggle that one goes through in life sometimes can separate you from the person you love. But I think we've gotten closer over the years because our bond is tight, where we've always, since we met, had this concept in our lives that we wanted to grow old together and be in a rocking chair.
And I just think it's just, we support each other. We both, know what we want. And if I'm going to do something, have Pedro support and vice versa in our relationship.
We complement each other very well in those following each other's and supporting each other's dreams.
I'm thinking about your son now. It's just so wonderful to hear your story. It's very motivational to me. Your son, what concept do you think your son has of home?
I think he's seen stability with us that he wasn't getting in his own home. In a home that was very chaotic for a young man to grow up in that environment. And
so much temptation that was at that house. With either what path should I take? Where should I go? And being, with us, we would always, try to lead him to a better life. But of course, the ultimate was his decision. And we're so happy he chose the right one.
And we never try to, we just try to be role models by doing things. And he noticed those experiences and he enjoyed them. Having dinner, I still remember Francisco used to cut a steak growing up because he just wanted to eat the steak.
He never had steak before. All he would eat was Hot Pocket. So one day we made him this big juicy steak and he almost choked. And I said, no, let me show you how you eat it. And I mean, to this day, he jokes because his girlfriend is there. He goes, Francisco, aren't you going to cut my steak for me?
But those memories that we've held together, those experiences, that laughter, the joking around, just exposing him to the world outside your own block, that's what I think everyone needs, and through those experiences, I think that's where you make choices to find what home is going to become to you through those choices, right? So we hope that he'll get to a place where he gets married and goes down that path and is going to be a father that he didn't have, right? And be a good father to his child and just
be a good husband to his wife.
Exactly. Respecting each other.
What makes you more proud of your son?
That he's said he wanted to do something, and he did it, right? And we had a really, we were really on his butt for a long time because he was making bad choices, ditching school, hanging out with the wrong crowd. But we were on him, and he wasn't used to that. And I think he kind of liked that we were on him.
That someone cared about him.
That somebody cared about him. And so we're most proud that he wanted to follow a career in law enforcement because he had such an affinity to his grandfather who served in LAPD. So his grandfather might have been a role model early on in his life. And he saw those behaviors from his grandfather and the love from his grandfather, and he decided to pursue his footsteps. And he did. He did it, his perseverance.
I think you bring really important comments where, I do feel that sometimes, people seek validation, and then you can seek that validation in the wrong places.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you want to feel that you belong somewhere. And then either if that is belonging to someone who might be in a gang, or, because they might not have that at home, or the people who are at home don't have the time, or for whatever circumstances.
Yeah.
So I feel that hearing that you both, were like such a pillar for him, and, that he was valued for who he is, and you gave him a choice, that's something that is commendable. And I think that just hearing you say all this is just like, I just wanna you both are doing or did an outstanding job. Patrick, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. I think this was terrific. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Wonderful.
Since we're recording this, and this is going to be, well, it will be edited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're going to have
Yes.
the chance to look at this before it's released. So, but I wanted to, probably we're talking about at least 30 to 40,000 people that will go through the exhibition. Is there anything that any of you want to say to the people who are going to be watching this in the exhibition?
I just want to say that you need to be true who you are. Just be yourself, express yourself. If you have a dream, follow it. If you come from not a family like I came from, there's going to be others who are going to love you, who might be your teachers, or it might be a neighbor or someone, but there is going to be someone out there, who's going to love you. Please, don't think you're alone, because you're not. Just reach out and somebody will be there for you.
As you get older, you kind of look back and you see your life, and it comes really fast. The older you get, the faster it gets. And, coming here in 2005, straight from DC, where I was very, let's say aggressive, but, go-getter, intense. I've learned over time to, just sometimes take moments to just appreciate the time you're spending with one another, instead of trying to go somewhere. You're always trying to ambition, and you're always trying to move and find and achieve things. And, sometimes you got to slow down and really appreciate each other and the time you spend with your loved ones, with your people you work with, because you tend to spend a lot of time with them. And, I think it's important for all of us to respect each other. We all come from different places, and that diversity is really a strength in what makes us the United States of America. the dream, the land of opportunity. Nowhere else can you achieve what you can achieve here. And I think that's why we're still a beacon of opportunity for so many immigrants from
Hope.
everywhere. And so let's just remember that we're all coming from somewhere, and let's just respect each other and live in a world where we can start really addressing the issues that are preventing us from thriving as a society. Because there's just too much ugliness in this world, and we can sometimes be our worst enemies. But there's love at the end of the day, and we should all love each other.